Hello, hello, and welcome back to Tears of the Kingdom 2, the crafting of a hypothetical third Breath of the Wild game, or whatever you want to call this. Tears of the Kingdom 100 years later? I think I might settle on calling it Tears of the Kingdom 100 years later in the long run, but I don't know. I'm still very in the air of what I want to call this. But yeah, my hypothetical project of me creating a what-if sequel to Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. So I've done a little bit of work off between the episodes, and I've done a lot of thinking and talking with people, and the first thing I did, I have expanded the map very roughly. So, all of the land masses here were gained from either what you can see when you look out in the distance in the game from mountaintops and in different locations, or from me looking at people going out of bounds in the game. Like, whenever people clip out of bounds and go here, there's a big inland lake somewhere up north here. And, like, the land dips down lower somewhere around here. And this area is very interesting because it changed between the games when I was looking at stuff. In Breath of the Wild, everything here, like, going out in all directions, is mostly just, like, a big lump of land with these two protrusions out either end. But in Tears of the Kingdom, when you know clip out, there's actually loads of water around this area, which I think is very interesting. And these become like islands in the distance. And I think I'm sticking with that aesthetic. And this area has a very specific shape because it's, you can actually very clearly see the desert from the Gerudo Highlands. You know, fun stuff I'm working on. Sorry, just sipping my drink. I also got a weird thought in my head of, like, trying to overlay the Wind Waker map onto things, and I did two different versions. So I used two locations as a touchstone. The Tower of the Gods and Dragon Roost. So Dragon Roost is said to be where Zora's domain is, and the Tower of Gods, in this scenario, I put above Hyrule Castle, and in this other one, I put the Tower of Gods over, the Great Plateau around where Hyrule Castle would be there. Because those who don't know, the ruins on Hyrule Castle... By the way, we're just listening to the Tears of the Kingdom OST, and we're going to just see what comes up as we go. I might skip songs, which I think I'm going to do right now. Yeah, switch to something chiller. The ruins on the Great Plateau are actually modeled after the Ocarina of Time ruins of Hyrule. And so I used that as the idea of an alternative position for the Tower of Gods. And each of these come with their own interesting things. In this formation, the Forest Haven is way out in the ocean, which feels strange. And Outset Island is all the way off at the edge of the desert, Link's hometown. Great Fish Isle lies at this mountain peak here. And Windfall sits right over the, the Great Deku Tree and Lost Woods. That's what I was looking for. And if we look at the other layout, which is a much more compact one, a lot more of the landmass ends up over Hyrule proper, but there is still some things like Outset Island is off at the edge of the map, same goes for Forsaken Fortress. Windfall ends up near Death Mountain, and the Lost Woods place, where does it end up? It ends up... Yeah, Forest Haven ends up right at the entrance of the Gerudo Desert. I don't know if I'm going to do anything with these, but it was just a thing I ended up doing because I was like, thoughts. Let me sip my drink. Yeah, but whether or not I'll use these regions beyond, I'm not entirely sure if I'm going to do that, but they're sort of here now for the thought experiment. Now, let's see here. I did the development layer, the build-up layer, the cultural, the prosperous layer, and that's bigger. So, I realized when I was doing my cultural layer, which, by the way, if you haven't watched the first video, this might not be making a lot of sense. If you're on the stream, you can just ask questions, which, by the way, oh, I just saw. Hello. Who's in chat? Sorry. Hello, I am Popkiss. Yeah, I'm just gonna sort of be rambling pretty heavily, I feel like, with this. Give me just a second. I'm trying to make the chat more visible to me. If I can. Oh, that's really annoying. Hang on, come on. Let me make the chat bigger. There we go, that's what I was trying to do. Now I should be able to see chat a little bit better if all of you are messaging me. Yeah, for all of you, it's just popping up on screen, but it's not popping up on screen for me. Yeah, so in the if you have any questions about what the hell I'm doing in chat, feel free to ask. Otherwise, I'm gonna be talking as if everybody knows what happened in the last one, like the last stream of this. But yeah, so last time I had worked, I'd been working out how I thought Hyrule might rebuild. And so I started off with a developmental layer, where I sort of looked at what areas of Hyrule are currently built up, not counting stables, because stables are a sort of thing that seems to be in flux in lore. They can move around and change and aren't set in predefined locations. Then I did the build-up layer, where I was like, alright, what regions are most likely to get expanded in first? And I concluded the Gerudo would likely want to connect to the temple, and also eliminate the Yiga as soon as they could. And that, like, a lot of the regions would want to connect to each other. I had gone ahead and highlighted the Great Plateau in this segment, and I think I want to change my mind there. Because they would not put a first priority on the reclaiming of the Great Plateau. So we're just going to erase the Great Plateau from this layer. Because that feels like a project that would come later on. I also put forward my theory that this bridge would eventually collapse. And would go into, and people would instead start to take the northern pass more heavily. Because that bridge looks like it's on its way to go in Tears of the Kingdom. And I also connected all of the locations where you could find towers. And made them part of the rebuild effort. And all the roadways that felt like they would be used more heavily, etc, etc. And that's how we got this layer. I didn't give these guys their road because I feel like they would primarily be connected via water trade rather than roadways. Then we had the cultural increase, where this is me mentioning, I think, like, Zelda's first priority would be to rebuild the cultural hotspots and continue the Zone I research of Hyrule. And that is where... Let's make this bigger. Oh, by the way, I'm still requesting if anybody can get me a higher quality map of Hyrule, I would very much appreciate it. Tears of the Kingdom Hyrule. Yeah, this is the phase in which the Great Plateau would get heavily investigated and colonized. And last time I overlooked some important locations, I feel like. This statue here, this park, I don't think it would get a focus in this stage, but later on it might. The other one, the fucking temple. Of course this temple would be a primary part of the expansion. Like, duh. And so what we would see is the whole temple, oops, being a big part of the focus. And, like, the area in front a little bit. And I think we would also see a, basically them building a road running through the entirety of the canyon below. That would curve around here, and we would see the birth of a new road running through this area. They would build an entirely new roadway dedicated to that. And I also feel like, thinking about it, this labyrinth would become a center of their investigations. But I don't think they would build a long-lasting road leading up there. People would just go here and then turn north and go to it. This one feels too far out ocean for them to do much about, and this one feels sort of tucked in the mountains and kind of forgotten. Yeah, those are the areas I think would be expanded into during the research and cultural regrowth phases. I think Zelda would specifically try and avoid the, Lost Forest, because of it being the sacred land that it is. Let's see here. And yeah, that's that phase of expansion. And then it was the Prosperous Era. And I think it's in the Prosperous Era that I should make a little bit more be considered part of the Hyrule regrowth. I think we would see the rebuild and regrowth go all the way out to this area. Even including some around here. But I don't think the Breach of Demise would be much of a focus of rebuilding and regrowth. These ruins would likely get reclaimed. So, when we enter the Prosperous Era, which is like about 100 years after Tears of the Kingdom, we would see them expand and reclaim all of that. I mentioned this whole area would likely be part of the reclamation. And with that, we would see, like, that kind of growth. I don't think they'd actually try and reclaim this area up here, and they just sort of let it fall into the mush. Unless they wanted to turn it into a soldier training ground again, but I don't know if they do that. This area is actually supposed to be sort of an important park region, I remember now. And I also think all of this would be brought into the, the areas that they put care into. Not necessarily with there being villages here, per se, but you might see, like, scattered guard outposts and the like being built in these areas. Some of this would have... Actually, you probably get farmland all running through elements of this, potentially. But these are all the areas where you might find guard towers, farmland, houses, park... like, areas specifically set aside to be parks, and things like that. And so I think we would see, Hyrule returning to what it was at its peak, finally rebuilding from the calamity, is what a lot of what I'm doing here would be. So a lot of this is highlighting areas that already had ruins pre-war. Just sipping my drink again. I think Pharaon would be left relatively alone, although I do think Zelda would want to put importance into just getting this whole area looked after again. If not Zelda, then her descendants. And that might even run as far as having a, like... Yeah, this is the whole... Yeah. I think it would go as far as down here, where the horse goddesses... Oop, that's not the horse goddess area. Where the horse goddesses region is found, and we might even see a new small town similar to Oradon be built down in this region down to the south. And in the same vein, yeah, I think we'd see all of that get rebuilt. We might have some small expedition forces going out into this region, but I don't think it would ever, at this point, become a major part of the regrowth and re-expansion effort. The jungle would be just sort of left as the jungle. Yeah. And I think that's sort of more or less where I see things going with that. And so, let's talk a little bit more about what the specifics of this thought project have become in my head. This is Hyrule 100 years later. 100 years after the calamity. What has happened? How has Hyrule rebuilt? So, like, all of the human characters we saw probably passed on by this point, except for maybe Paya. And I think it would be funny if Paya then had a apprentice named Impa, creating a funny little cycle there. And, like, we might have, like, the Zora King Sidon still alive, but, like, other than that, all the characters will have passed because of old age, in all likelihood. Words. And I'm thinking more and more what I would want to turn this campaign, or this series into, is a tabletop campaign with my friends. I think that's the long-form goal of this in my head. And you know, maybe it's, what, I don't know, I'd love to get people's input in here, their ideas, and of how Hyrule might rebuild and all of that. And in that vein, I feel like the campaign, if I did this as a tabletop campaign, the players would be sort of the apprentices of the sages. So all the sages we saw in the last game have passed on, retired, and given their stones to the new champions. Even Sidon, despite still being alive, has given his stone to somebody new so that he could serve primarily as king. And their apprentices are who the people training the characters are, the new sages. Which, again, if this is a tabletop campaign, those are the players. And so with that, I'm going to label these now Y0 and Y100, because these are how far they will have built up to, as time passes. I think this would be sort of like Y20, like 20 to 30, that ballpark. You know, what has been reclaimed has Zelda is nearing... Well, really, I should make this more like Y30. Has Zelda's nearing the end of her life. And then this one would be like Y60. With this layer being like, well... I think it might be more so Y10 and Y30. So the yellow is like where things are when the Zelda we are dealing with is at the end of her life and passing things on to her children. And the Y100 is where Hyrule is as of settings opening, you know? And I also think, since I'm keeping the holes around, there's going to be another important layer on track. Yiga. So this comes to a big part of what I think the narrative going on in this setting in my head is. A war between the Yiga and the people of Hyrule. And in that vein, I do want to quickly erase this. And this hole would instead be part of the pink layer. The 100 years later layer has a recently claimed fortress. Yeah. And so I'm thinking like the Yiga have rooted themselves deep underground. You know, they are now down there, and they are trying to use the existing chasms as a way to force their way up and out. And similarly, the people of Hyrule are using the chasms they have under their control firmly as a way to go down and fight the Yiga in the underground. And so with that in mind, I think the Yiga have managed, they had a base up here in this game, and I think they're still actually using that secret base. They reclaimed it sometime later, and they're using this hole as one of the ways that they used to get up. Putting a Yiga presence there. Let me look up a map of where all of the chasms are. Give me just a moment. Where to find every chasm in Tears of the Kingdom. Here we go. There we go. I got a detailed map now on my other screen monitor that I'm looking at. And so I can use this to sort of inform where I think the Yiga would be surfacing. I had marked that hole as being part of the research hole, but I think it's much more interesting if that is an area of influence for the Yiga. So, you know, they're trying to cut off this whole tower and, you know, do dubious things all around here. They're coming up through that hole. They would be trying to come up through the well hole, around here as well. So, like, this whole region would be dealing with Yiga presence and Yiga problems when this narrative is taking place. I don't think they're... Well, you know what? Yeah, they are coming up here and using the area just outside the Lost Woods as part of their territory. This chasm here, because it's so big, it was never touched, but they will have 100% claimed this entire corner as part of where they are using as their staging grounds in their Shadow War. The Tingle Islands, and even this entire quarry here, are all Yiga territory as of when this is meant to be taking place in the, you know, the 100 years later. They're definitely using these chasms as pop-up points, but they aren't actually, like, you know, it's secret pop-up points they're using, if that makes sense, if you get what I mean. And same goes for the chasm that's located around here. They don't really have heavy bases in these areas, per se. Well, no, I think even here, under that stump, they're gonna have a base. All of these chasms are used as locations for the Yiga to be going out, coming to the surface and invading Hyrule and attacking. With them being very careful about which ones they use. I think they will have turned this entire labyrinth into a Yiga fortress. The Great Plateau ones have too much eyes on them for them to use, but the one in the lake, they've definitely tried to start to turn this lake into a secret base. Yeah, certain chasms, though, like this one here, they all just have too much traffic for them to really be able to do much. And I think while this town is supposed to be reclaimed, as of story start, the Yiga have taken this island and taken the people living on it hostage. You know, like, this is a Hyrule in the midst of a war being charged by the Yiga clan. With the Yigas trying to attack Hyrule with Master Koga III. Oops. Yeah, and I think those are the areas where the Yiga are coming up, and all of the other holes... Oh, and actually, they will have claimed this fortress has a base as well. Or this maze has a, you know, a base of operations. Yeah. And... I can't be the only one who thinks it's super fucking weird that all of this isn't water, right? And that it's a big canyon. Because, like, there's barely any land there. And if we're talking about 100 years that have passed... I'm going to call this world because it's for me to mark off world changes. I think it's safe to say that 100 years of erosion is enough for this canyon to be worn away. And this to have been flooded out. I'm just gonna move that above the bigger layer so I can do this. You might have some rocky outcroppings scattered throughout that, so like, you know, just like boop, boop. But other than that, this has all become water. It's a thing that always bothered me, was this canyon being able to exist with the thin slither of water separating it. And so I think by this point, this is all flooded out. Which, you know, in theory creates new avenues of connection. Like I mentioned, this area over here would be like a university zone. They could have a dock now that they use to connect up to the rest of Hyrule, and maybe that's how they get over here. They didn't make a road, they just sail a boat over. You know? Oh, I'm hitting it on the wrong keyboard, that's why it's not working. I have two keyboards. And I moved both to my lap while I was looking up that map. Alright, and eventually this canyon does rise up over here, and I will actually allow that land bridge to stay, because if you look at it on like the zoom, on the boundary breaking map, like this area is a big thick strip of land. But this definitely feels like an area that you might eventually see the people of Hyrule trying to build like a canal through, you know. And so by this point, 100 years later, this has become like the great northern river around Hyrule, and Hyrule has almost become a pseudo-island nation, or really more of a peninsula, similar to like the Iberian Peninsula, but with an even thinner connection to the rest of the world. Yeah, and I think I like that look. This big bear, like, that canyon felt ridiculous to not have flooded out, you know what I mean? But yeah, so, as of when, like, the story I am thinking takes place, Hyrule 100 years later, the new sages are thorough, like, deep in their training, the third generation of the sages. But like they're very much apprentices with their trainers, you know, the people training them still very thoroughly being in charge. And so those sages are very heavily engrossed in the war on the Yiga. You know, so you have Rito, the Rito sage flying around here and like helping to fight Yiga that are trying to come up at various sorry. They're trying to stop the Yiga from attacking the canyon and protecting this region because it's an important holy site. The Goron sage, living down in Death Mountain, and they are like full on fighting a war underneath Death Mountain because they're underground and the Yiga are underground. Like there's intense fighting there constantly. The Zora sage having to split his attention between helping all of these areas, like all of Akala, the town down here, this area, the Tingle Islands, all of this is under the protection of the Water Sage, trying his best to help everything. The Spirit Sage, there currently isn't a Spirit Sage, because, she left with the Sky Islands, and that's actually a big part, I think, of the plot, is going to be that there hasn't been a Spirit Sage since the upheaval. So the Spirit Sage popped up during the upheaval and then went away, and there's just no Spirit Sage. Of course, the Sage of Time, or Light, Sage of Light, whatever, the Hylian Sage is living up here in Hyrule Castle and is just being the princess. Because I feel like Zelda would pass it on to her descendants. The Gerudo Sage is very much focused on everything going on here and trying to, you know, they only just recently claimed the Yiga base here in the Gerudo Highlands and are now using that hole and this hole as touching points to go down and build up a fortress and fight the Yiga. I think the Yiga might even still have a base through this chasm that is still trying to be attacked, where they're using a staircase built here to push up and attack it. I should get a map of the underground for the next one of these videos. And the, am I missing a sage? We had the Spirit, we had Zelda. I feel like I'm forgetting a sage for some reason. Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom list of all sages. Oh, come on. I hate my phone's autocorrect. It keeps aggressively stopping from searching it. Yeah, so we got the Zora one, the Goron one. Hang on. Zelda has the Sage of Time. Oh, I guess, yeah, the Sage of Light, I feel like, yeah, we never got a Light Stone, so the Sages of Spirit and Light are kind of a lost thing as when this takes place. So rather than having the full 7 Sages, we have the 5 Sages. The Ruler of Hyrule being one, the Ruler of the Zora being another. Although he passed on to his, like, not his, to someone else, has been passed on to, you know? What do you have passed it to? I don't even think it's his son he passed it to. So, you know, the hero of... we have the Ruler of Hyrule, the hero of Zora, the hero of Rito, the leader of the Gerudo would carry their Sage Stone, and the hero of the Gorons has the 5 sages that are active within the region. Trying to fight back against the Yiga and all of that, and people sort of researching what the sages were, and, you know, wondering, oh, could we find more Sage Stones? You know, that whole shtick. And so, the next thing I want to try and think about, if I'm running this, if this is a game, you know, we would want temples. We would want temple locations, 100%. And in that vein, I want to try and mark where I think these would be. And I want to do something fun. Hang on. I want my temples to be, hang on. God, I hate my phone's autocorrect. I typed in Zelda 1 temples, and when it was like Zelda 1 templates, I'm like, no! Yeah, I would want to recreate the Zelda 1 dungeons in a sense. And I would want to have, like, the 8 dungeons of the first Zelda game, because I think that is a fun concept. So let's see here. Yeah, you had the... hang on, I'm trying to find what they were referred to within the manual. Come on. I know all of them had, like, a symbol relating to them. And that's what I'm trying to find real quick. Ba-bum. Here we go. Yeah, the temples were the eagle, the moon, the manji, the snake, the lizard, the dragon, the demon, the lion, and Death Mountain. And so, hang on. God, my phone is really pissing me off. I might be about... Alright, hang on. Fuck it. My phone's being annoying with this. Let me grab my keyboard and use my second PC. So yeah. And once again, those locations were... Oh, come on. Let me zoom in. I know how PDF files work. Yeah. Yeah, the 9 labyrinths. Eagle, Moon, Manji, Snake, Lizard, Dragon, Demon, Lion, and Death Mountain. And so the first temple... The eagle was located within a tree on a island in a lake. And we got that right here. Hang on, let me just... Yeah, get rid of all that. You can't really make it out on my shitty quality map I have here, but... This right here is a little tree stump. And so what I want to do... Hang on. There we go. So the first dungeon was the eagle. And I think it would be located right here. Like, that's what I think is the fun concept here, is recreate the 8 dungeons from Zelda 1 on this, in this new world. So there's the first dungeon's rune. The Dungeon of the Eagle. Next, the Dungeon of the Moon. There we go. So I'm just trying to find out another... There we go. It was located in the mountains of a jungled region on the map. Or if we're... You know, if that's how I'm choosing to interpret the old game's map. So in the mountains of a jungled region, I think Temple 2 is going to be right here, right underneath where they built this labyrinth. And that was the significance of this location, but I mean, this, not labyrinth, this tower. They didn't even realize the significance of this region when they were doing that. 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 down. 2, 3, 4, 5. And then it goes 2 over. This goes 1 over there. I'm sort of doing loose recreations of the shapes of the temples as the markers of their location. So that's the Temple of the Moon. Next would be the Manji. Now, I don't want to draw a Manji. Google what a Manji looks like and you will know what I mean. So I'm gonna find a quick alternative image. Manji is a Japanese name. God, why is everything so zoomed out right now? So, the symbol of Manji... I'm trying to look at what some original meaning it was. Give me a moment. It was meant to be a symbol of good fortune before it was ruined. So, I'm gonna look up other symbols of good luck. And we're gonna use a different historic symbol of good luck. They're fundamental in Hinduism. So, we're gonna use the symbol of the instead. Because the symbol of the feels a lot less sketchy to use, and you'll understand what I mean if you look up what a manji looks like. So, its location, Dungeon 3, was near the starting location of the game, close to a river. I'm going to interpret that as being near the Great Plateau, close to a river. Give me a moment. I'm just trying to pick a location I would want. I think I have an idea, but I'm just looking at maps and stuff, other maps and stuff to get an idea. Yeah, you know what? The horse statue is hiding the entrance to a dungeon. I think that's really fun in concept. And this one I'm going to be a little bit more creative because I'm recreating a different pre-existing symbol rather than using the one that was, you know, intended to be used. There we go. That's my very loose attempt at recreating the symbol of the while sticking to the Zelda 1 dungeon floor layout plan drawing style. Let me know if you think you could have done better. Actually, hang on. I think I can do slightly better. There we go. That feels like a mild improvement on the shape. Yeah. So yeah, that's my replacement for the Manji Temple. The next is the Temple of the Snake, which in the original game was located... Let's see here. Temple for the Snake. On an island in a lake. Well, there's only one lake, but I feel like with the giant hole in it, we would know if the dungeon was there. That is, unless the dungeon is in the underground here, which is how I'm going to choose to interpret this, because I think that's a fun way to interpret this. So let me go ahead and try and do a shitty drawing of the Snake Temple. So you would go underground through that chasm and weave through it. And in that vein, I actually thinking about it, the Yiga are not going to have a base here. You know, you go down there and, like, go through, because those who don't remember, in the underground of the game, this whole area is, like, there's, like, a tunnel that runs through over to here. And so if you follow that tunnel where that ends, you will actually find the entrance to this temple, and Link just never noticed it, is my thought. Like, because it was covered in stone at the time. Next, the Temple of the Lizard, Temple 5, was located high up in the mountain region. And hang on, we're saying a Temple of the Lizard? I think it's obvious where it goes. Where the two lizards' eyes meet is the location of the Temple of the Lizard on this map. What the fuck was that? Sorry, I'm just looking at the shape of the Temple of the Lizard. And like... what the hell? How is... am I looking at this right? How is that supposed to be a lizard? Well, either way, I'm gonna draw it the way it looks. Oops. That's the lizard temple. Apparently that's supposed to be a lizard. It looks more like a Minecraft villager schmirking his meat. I don't know, you all let me know what you see in that, Rorschach test. Next, the Temple of the Dragon was located within a great cemetery. There's not really any big cemeteries in Tears of the Kingdom, huh? Huh. Normally the games have some sort of crazy cemetery location, but yeah, there's nothing like that here. Where do I want to put the Temple of the Dragon? The dragon these nuts across your face. Okay. I think we're gonna put it down here, where the Arbiter's grounds would be located. There's also an area called Dragon's Exile. Let's put it in Dragon's Exile. That feels like a good place to put the Temple of the Dragon. And I was gonna go with Arbiter's grounds, because like that's always been sort of a cemetery location in lore. But, you know, putting it here feels funner. Apparently, I can kind of see the dragon drawing here as I'm looking at it, honestly. Here's the Temple of the Dragon's location. Next was the Demon. Which is located... Dungeon 7, the Demon. Under a lake you have to dry up, near the Lost Woods. I could put it here. A lake you need to dry up, just north of the Lost Woods. There's not really any lakes near the Lost Woods that I could make where you have to dry up, unless I did here, or over there might be a good one. Hang on. Pico Pond? Drawing up Pico Pond to reveal a dungeon feels like a fun positioning. So we're gonna put the Dungeon of the Demon in Pico Pond. How the hell is this supposed to be a drawing of a demon? Whatever. So that's 3 across there. And then 3 more out. Yeah. And then there we go. There we go. There's where the demon's like, or demon dungeon would be. Next is the lion, which is hidden deep within the forest in the jungle. I could just put it here and be boring, right where the goddess statue is, but I feel like I just want it to be generically in the dungeon, or in the forest, especially because it's super well hidden in Zelda 1 and not telegraphed hard. I think putting it around here might be the funnest location. Right around the, Bronaz Forest. I can 100% see the lion face in this. 2, 3. I will say it looks slightly better the way they draw it because they are using longer pieces. Like, so their version of it looks a little bit more like that. And you can see it a lot more there. Alright, and then Death Mountain is the last dungeon. And I mean Death Mountain. But that being said, it is also located in Spectacle Rock. So I'm faced with the question of, do I want to put a dungeon in Death Mountain, or do I want to put a dungeon in Spectacle Rock? I think I want to put the dungeon in Spectacle Rock. Because that feels like a funner location to put a dungeon. Simple as that. Even though it's called Death Mountain, and like, you know, it's called Death Mountain in the game, but it's like not like they had the concept of the volcanic Death Mountain at the time. It was Ganon's fortress Death Mountain. And Ganon having a fortress in Spectacle Rock feels like it would make a heck of a lot of sense. So let's just go ahead and... How these 8 dungeons are going to play into the plot that I have in my head, I'm not sure. Because the basic plot I have in my head is, hang on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, the concept I have is the heroes or the players or the characters are all people training to be the next sages, you know? So I'm just looking at some stuff. It's like the main plot of like what's happening is the Yiga clan are attempting to revive Ganon. And I think their main way of doing that has a callback to Zelda 2, is they want to steal the body of the hero of Hyrule, of Link, the one who slayed him, and use his blood in a ritual to revive Ganon. And so I think Link has been entombed in a sacred location. Where that is, maybe Hyrule Castle, maybe the Great Plateau. I've still got to decide where they buried Link. But Link's body is buried and, like, looked over, and the Yiga clan wants to steal Link's body and use it to revive the Demon Lord through ancient magic. And the sages are helping to lead a sort of guerrilla war against Yiga, because the Yiga are using the underground's darkness to their advantage. Because I think, at the end of Tears of the Kingdom, at the end of the upheaval, the islands returned to the skies above. And the shrines all disappeared. And the shrines were creating the light roots, and the light roots were actually primarily for the purpose of fighting back Ganon's dark roots that he had spread out. And so the light roots disappeared with the shrines after the events of the narrative, and because of that, the underground was plunged back into darkness. And the Yiga are using that to their advantage, staging guerrilla warfare on the people, anybody who tries to go underground, they are sort of guerrilla warfare attacking them, and they're using the holes that have yet to be discovered to slip up to the surface and sneak around and attack people, you know? And so I think there's going to be like multiple plots going on in my concept of this Tears of the Kingdom sequel thing. You know, the Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom 100 years later. Whatever it'll end up being called, you know, Blood of the Dragon or some shit. Blood of the Dragon is a very nice name. Ooh, Legend of Zelda Blood of the Dragon. Ooh. I don't know, I'm still thinking about that. They're trying to get Link's body to revive the Dark Lord. And, the players take the role of the sage's apprentices being sent out to train and gain their, like, unlock their true potential before being given the sage stones. I'm gonna sip my coffee. And, these 8 dungeons, I think, would be just part of one part of the questline. I think what these 8 dungeons are about is rediscovering the lost Triforce. I think I want to have a lot of multiple juggling plotlines going. You know, the war with the Yiga is one of them. But there's also the rumors of the, you know, the ancient Triforce, or the Light Force. You know, this ancient magical artifact of Hyrule that was what was used to make Hyrule as grand as it was. And the princess has set the group out, the sages' apprentices, because while the sages are preoccupied with war and can't carry on the training, the sage apprentices have all been gathered and given information by, you know, Lady Paya and her apprentice Impa to go and find the rumors of this thing, you know. So the campaign would open up in Hyrule Castle with the new Princess Zelda being like, "Oh, great sage, you know, apprentices of the sages, I have gathered you here. Because, you know, Hyrule, we want to find the Triforce. So go to, hang on, let's turn these all on. Just turn on all the layers we have. Yeah, I want you to go and find the, I want you to go to, Kokoriko Village and talk with Lady Paya about a discovery that her and the Zonai research team have made. I think it'd be now renamed to the Ancient Research Team. Or just the Research Team, something like that. And so you would go to them and they'd be like, "Oh, yep, away up in Typhlo Ruins, we found this ancient map. That pertains to, you know, the myth of the Triforce, and it marks, I don't know if it would outright mark the temples. I think what would happen is she would tell you that at Typhlo Ruins, there's a series of 8 riddles that will guide you to where the temples are. You know, so, where the 2 lizards' gazes meet, beneath the mount of the or in the valley beneath the mountain of the Sage of Riches. On the isle within the Great Lake of Hyrule, etc., etc. You know, they'd have these eight riddles that would guide them to the 8 temples, and exploring them would help to unlock the secret of where the Triforce was lost at. And here's a really fun part I'm thinking I want to do. This is just an idea I'm playing with. I want time travel to be involved in this plot line, right? Everybody loves a good bit of time travel. Zelda's always full of it. And I'm debating, I think that these 8 temples will actually guide you to where you can find a time gate, like the one from Skyward Sword. And that time gate will take you, I'm debating if I want it to be to the 10,000 years in the past, to just after the events that Ganon was sealed away, and the Sky Islands ripped away, and Zelda having eaten, the ancient Zelda having eaten the, I don't want to spoil that, just after the events of all of the flashbacks of ancient Hyrule. And have the players have the ability to explore the Zonai ruled Hyrule, just after the destruction caused by Ganon, though, when Hyrule was sort of all fucked up by Ganon. Ganon's monsters before they sealed him away. So another Hyrule stuck in a state of rebuild, per se. Or, here's the weird alternative idea I have in my head. In the original Zelda, the game was originally going to have a plot element, where you were going to be able to travel forward in time to a sci-fi world with a two-world aesthetic. So even I forget where I read this, so take it all with a grain of salt. It was going to be revealed that the Triforce pieces you're collecting are actually microchip pieces for a time machine to go to a sci-fi future. And how out there and cool would it be that when you fully assemble the, or when you fully go to all the temples, you get a time gate and you go 10,000 years or 100,000 years, whatever time, forward in time to a Hyrule that is built up to the modern technology. And that feels like it'd be a little too out there, but like even if you look at a lot of Zelda concept art, the creators have always played with the idea of like, what if technology? What if technology? That would be neat, wouldn't it? But I don't know, all just ideas. Ideas I'm playing with in my head. Just sipping my coffee again. Yeah, I don't know. Thoughts, fun thoughts. Words. But I think that's gonna be it for this part of the project. Give me your comments below. What do you think are fun ideas? What are some things I should add to this? What are ways I could flesh this concept out more? What would you want to see out of this concept? I'd love to hear it all, I'm very much having fun trying to brainstorm what this is, and, if you can get me a link to a higher res version of the map of Hyrule, oh, I would be so fucking grateful for that. I've not been able to find a higher res one, and it really bothers me. This is the best one I could find after hours of searching, and even this one is, like, really crap. I want a really good, high-resolution map of Tears of the Kingdom Hyrule. But yeah, I think that's it for this one. End cards will be appearing in a moment, so, click one of those to continue watching. Consider supporting me over on Ko-fi in order to help stuff like this develop. I love all you very, very much, and ta-ta for now.